What my talk today was to try to understand, in some sense disentangle this. What is insecurity? Why is it that we see an increasing insecurity across the world, and how is it related to things like neoliberal governance, and what does it look like when we have different actors on the right that try to mobilize such insecurity, and they do it by using a very emotional language. And this language is not only used in speeches, in election campaigns, but it's also used throughout social media. So what I'm interested in is to kind of try to disentangle this kind of relationship. And I guess what I find when I try to do this, I find two things, I think. One is the thing that how the increase in what I call authoritarian populism is related to, on the one hand, it's related to neoliberal governance. On the other hand, we cannot understand it without understanding it in a kind of historical perspective, where things like, race, gender, class differences play into the different ways in which language is being used and mobilized. That's what I call emotional governance. So what these actors, these far-right populist actors use, is a particular language where they make people feel that they have an answer, they have a kind of identity to provide them. And I do that often by looking back into the past, finding, giving an illusion that life was better before, that something is missing, that we need to bring the past and the present and the future together. And in doing this, we both have a kind of, colonial legacy, but we also have very gendered legacy. So within this, what I'm interested in is to see how does, in that sense, gender nationalism work through these populist authoritarian actors. And they can be political leaders, they can be movements, they can be other groups. So what are the particular kind of narratives, the particular kind of stories they tell their voters or prospective voters, and that tend to appeal to them? And then I look at this in a gendered sense. So I'm looking at in a gendered sense that what has happened with neoliberal governance is also that we have an increasing amount of perhaps men who are feeling left behind to some extent. And they are also the ones who are kind of easier to mobilize. And they mobilize it in relation to what they are against, So it will be in relation to immigrants, relation to the EU, relation to the establishment, relation to women, relation to multiculturalism. So being able to find these kind of tropes, to be able to, in some sense, close down anxieties, close down identities, believing that there is such a thing as an identity that can respond to these increasing anxieties. So gendered nationalism provides, in that sense, the tropes, to be able to do this. And in my talk today, I talked about how this was done in the Brexit case, how it's done in Trump's America, but also in the America we see today. Very polarized America, so in the Republican America in some sense. How it's done in Russia, and how the kind of gendered language being used in terms of Russia and Ukraine, but also how it's being done in, so we can talk about the COVID crisis, how it was being done in the COVID crisis, but also in relation to climate change.